didn't really jump off the page. He did his job as a quarterback, facilitated the ball. I think our rushing attack was just too much for them. But man, our defense really stomped the field, and Antonio Pierce, cap off to him and his staff for getting this team prepared for a scary team. This kid McKee hadn't thrown an interception. He was playing clean football all season, and we figured him out. What did you like from this win?
Yeah, the thing that stood out the most to me was the defense. Absolutely, I think we held them to I don't know, what was it, like 3 rushing yards. I have the stats right in front of me, but I mean, Tanner McKee is. He's only a sophomore, I believe, but he's supposed to be a pretty high draft pick. Yeah, they had 13 rushing yards total. And don't let the 356 yards passing jump off the page. 3 interceptions. Stanford hasn't thrown an interception all year, and we got 3 off of them, which is incredible. Anytime the quarterback throws 3 interceptions and you don't win the ball game, I'd like to see the stats on that, because I'm sure it's over 85%. Like, if you get 3 interceptions, you're in a really good spot to win the game. And then, they were rock solid whenever Stanford crossed our half of the field. They could not get in the red zone, and they went for it on 4th down a few times, couldn't get any points. I think the stat was 8 of 10 times when they were on our side of the field, they didn't come away with any points. And it was just thanks to stellar defense and turnovers. And it's a recipe for winning ball games. They were really good not giving up penalties this game. No costly penalties, holding calls, false starts, personal fouls, anything like that. There was none of those. It was a really rock solid game, and it really has my hopes up for ASU making the Rose Bowl, because we saw an Oregon team whose running back is now out for the season. We saw Oregon State is not all that great, even though we didn't think they would be. This is going to be a big game, because if you win this one, you're in the driver's seat. You really need 2 losses, maybe even 3 losses for someone to catch you. And I don't think that's going to happen with the schedule that ASU has. So, that was a really dominating win. I know it was only 18 points, but I think it was a little bit more than that, the way the game was played. And obviously, 18 is still a big win. But, we've struggled against Utah in the past. I've talked about how, their starting quarterback walked out on them and entered the transfer portal. Cam Rising won Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week last week. They had that nifty flea flicker, but I was still high on USC's talent. I've really jumped off there. Like, they are bad. They're not even that talented. They don't look like they have that much talent outside of Drake London. It's really, 1 or 2 players on the defense. It's really missing. So, I was really, really, really confident with this win. Feeling confident after the win. Sorry. And I'm really looking forward to this Utah game, because if you win by 10 plus against a good Utah team, not only will we jump up in the national rankings, because I'm sure a few teams in front of us will lose, but I think we're going to start gaining a lot more respect around the country. And, you can kind of start looking at potential Oregon State matchup in the championship for ASU, and then potentially start looking at some Big Ten teams. If Ohio State or Penn State or Iowa makes the college football playoff, what Big Ten team would ASU match up with in the Rose Bowl potentially? And it's somewhere this program hasn't been in a while, so it's really dang exciting.
Yeah, and it's exciting at one point, and then it's definitely something that that these players are already thinking about. I mean, let's be honest, with social media nowadays and just the reach that some of these guys have, they're on their social medias utilizing, and they see all these rankings and these articles and these nationally published just things that can get into their heads. And I think that is one thing that could be the downfall of this team is we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Mm-hmm. If these guys are thinking, Rose Bowl aspirations, the Pac-12 is ours, we've still got a very big, Utah, USC, heck, even Oregon State games ahead, like you said, that are, just teeter-totter games in the Pac-12 that it seems like ASU is always doing. Once a season, we just seem to drop one of these games. And this year it seems like we've got the most riding. So, I don't want to call it too early, but it definitely would be Very exciting for this team to play a Big Ten, a real, football program that has some, legacy, some roots, some history in, the college football scene. Because there's going to be a lot more people watching that game, and that'll just be good for Jaden. That'll be good for a bunch of players. To play at that level on that high of stage, and feel that pressure. And I think it's definitely coming up soon with this Utah game. And before we dive into that, I want to just throw out a little quick question to you. We've talked about Rachaad White a lot, and he only has 2 catches this year. He had a great touchdown. I'm pretty sure it was a reverse sweep or something like that. He had went in for the touchdown, but he seems to be getting 1 to 2 plays, in the real game. But we know he's, full go at practice. Do you think Herm is kind of just beating him little by little because he wasn't really there, to maybe grind with his team when they, went through all this stuff when he was academically uneligible?
I mean, Rachaad White, or sorry, you said Rachaad White.
I'm sorry, Elijah Badger. I'm sorry.
I mean, he's still, so what Zach Hill said in the press conference this week about Badger is that, he's still first year with the team, his first year of eligibility. He really is still learning the offense, and he wasn't there the entire time for the beginning of the season. I think he had an injury. So I think, as you can see, he's getting more and more involved every week. And he's really not a secret weapon, but, for people that are familiar with the Cardinals, kind of like Rondale Moore, where every time he touches the ball, it seems like something great happens, but he's maybe not always open. Maybe he's, not in great shape. He doesn't run the best routes, whatever, because I think he would be better utilized at wide receiver considering how stacked our backfield is. And, we have been running some plays with him, but I think he is a wide receiver through and through. But I think as the season goes on, especially, there's still someone that needs to grab that, wide receiver 1 title for this team. And if it becomes him, just look out. And I really could see a college football playoff, happening if he does become that true number 1 Drake London type wide receiver 1.
And no one has film on him either, by the way. So
exactly. So we're going to move on, still talking about a very similar topic. Can USC or Utah challenge ASU? And like I said earlier, I think I'm out on USC. 3 losses now in conference. So even if they beat ASU, they need ASU to lose 2 more times and need some help from other teams as well. It's kind of a lot to ask for. I don't even think USC deserves to be in this question. UCLA is definitely the better choice here for that. UCLA or Utah. And I don't think UCLA is in much better of a spot either. They looked horrible against U of A. I don't even think the DTR had over 100 yards passing in that game, even though they put up, 35 points or whatever. They ran the ball like crazy on that team, but DTR looked shaky again for back-to-back games now. And, this Utah game is going to say a lot. I'm really confident with this team. I think the last time I was this confident was, going into that BYU game, and we saw how that happened. But again, I don't think they got outplayed. I don't think they were, the less physical team in that game. They really just shot themselves in the foot with, fumbled kick return. I can't get my words out there. A fumbled kick return to open the game. We saw Merlin Robertson get the pick and then get stripped over the back, countless penalties. That game just could not have gone less of ASU's way if it tried. And I'm really confident going to this Utah game that ASU is just a sound and better team and that they're going to put up a better performance regardless of our history, regardless of Utah's defense, usually smothering us, but I don't think they have the same defense. Even USC put up, I think, 25, 26 points on them. So I'm really looking forward to this Utah game. I think more
27.
Sorry. Who's counting? I'm really looking forward to this Utah game because, let's say ASU, like I said earlier, does win by 10, 14 points like they did with Stanford. It's who really is there to challenge them? Is Oregon really even on their level? Because I know, a lot of the power rankings coming out this week have seen ASU at number 1, ASU projected to the Rose Bowl against, Ohio State or Iowa or Penn State. Imagine a ASU Ohio State game in the Rose Bowl. That could be scary. I don't know.
45 on us.
And I know we're going to lose some, U of A is probably going to snap their 3,000 day losing streak against us just to snap our Rose Bowl bid, whatever. But What do you think? Do you think ASU really has any competition in the South? I know Oregon, Washington can offer some issues, whatever. But do you think they have any competition in the South? I know one loss, even to if we do beat Utah, doesn't really end the conversation, but it really does. Not actually, but technically it does.
Right. No. I totally get what you're saying. I think, I'm kind of gonna piggyback off of what you said a little bit, but then I'm gonna give just the USC offense maybe a little respect. But no, I think this Utah game is gonna be very telling. Historically, when you think about this team going into Utah and playing, the first game that comes to mind, we've mentioned it before, is rain, freaking mud everywhere. These players are just falling. They can't even get a grip. The Utah defense, no, they grew up in this. This is how they play football every single day of their lives. So they literally dominated us, and we couldn't get anything going. No rush yards, no throwing yards. They just completely dominated us. Tyler Huntley, I believe, was their quarterback.
Yeah. And
So
that was also a Utah team that was one win away from going to the college football playoff. Remember, if they would have beat Oregon in that Pac-12 championship game, Utah's probably in the college football playoff.
yeah, they were
But
a legit defense, that team.
yeah, way better than this team's defense.
Oh yeah, and that was my next point. That's what we're thinking about when we think of this hard-nosed Utah team. They really have lost a lot of players, and that program has kind of changed from, that one year of that just juggernaut force they were kind of with Oregon, just battling it out up there at the top of the Pac-12 rankings. This defense is not what it used to be. They're averaging around 350 yards per game they're giving up. ASU's defense has been dominant on a lot of the statistics as a team I looked at compared to Utah, and this Utah team has played well as of late. We've saw them kind of dominate USC, but like Willis talked about earlier, this USC team, just too many distractions this year. Just too new of a, I think, coaching staff with what was going on, and ultimately this thing kind of just fell apart for them. They really just kind of fell off the train, lost a lot of the hype. Even Keaton Slovis is back, but he's just really not throwing to the game that he was used to, I would say, last year when they kind of ran the Pac-12. But props to Utah. They've been playing well. I think this is going to be a huge game that tells how ASU will kind of play out and finish maybe the rest of their season. We should really go in there and win this game by 2 touchdowns. Honestly, I think we are obviously the more sound team. I think we can plan and prep for this Cameron Rising guy. I looked at his numbers. This is his first game throwing over 300 yards in his college career, and first time even completing over 20 passes in his 4 or 5 games this season. So he's coming off a good game, but I expect him to kind of come back down to where they were playing him, maybe trying to balance out a little bit more rush attack against us. Not a great idea. We have probably the best rush defense in the Pac-12. It's going to be telling.
Probably the best defense in the Pac-12.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I saw the line. I'm pretty sure we're favored by 3.
I think I just looked, and I think it's even now on both sides, -110, -110. Yeah.
Interesting.
I have a question for you, kind of on that USC question.
I kind of forgot to talk about them, but go ahead, fire away.
Yeah. Do you think Keaton Slovis is even going to get drafted at this point this year? Or do you think he's going to have to return for another year to try to get a first-round pick? I mean, he's been injured. There's been talks of, benching him for Jackson Dart. There's, what NFL team he's going to draft, and there's no way he goes in the first 3 rounds as of right now.
I could totally see him hitting the transfer portal and going to, just finding a team that still believes. I mean, look at USC right now. Their program is kind of in shambles. I mean, Clay Helton was fired. They still might hire a new coach, but even if they do hire a new coach, maybe for not even next year, it'd probably be the year after that. He's not going to be in on that information. He's not going to know that. He's going to want to be out of there, or he's going to ride it out. Maybe, pray that USC can get some more talent. maybe on the offensive side. I'm not sure. I don't know what year Drake London's at, but that guy is pretty close to NFL ready, and like half their roster is. I mean, they're getting the best players in California, and
him and Chris Olave are probably the two best wide receivers in the country right now.
Oh yeah, I'd have to get behind that. But that USC game, they could play spoiler, man. I mean, just even if Keaton Slovis, we get a duo, Keaton Slovis and some Jackson Dart Love. I mean, those guys can fling the ball around, and Drake London could, catch 3 touchdowns. It could happen. We should be double teaming him. I mean, it'll be in the red zone at least. But we should. Who knows?
That's another reason why this Utah game is so important, though, because if you do win this Utah game, you're the only undefeated team in the Pac-12 South in conference, that is. And, you can afford a loss at that point. Let's say you do go to, USC comes to Tempe and ASU lays an egg and, they don't win. The thing is, for UCLA to catch them, they have to win out, and ASU has to lose again because ASU has the head-to-head, and Utah needs to win out, and ASU would have to lose another one because ASU has the head-to-head. So this Utah game is so important because you give yourself so much room for that potential Rose Bowl run. If you lose this game, you're going to need some help. You're going to need Utah to lose twice. And, your destiny is not in your own hands. So the winner of this game is really going to control their own destiny and really have legitimate Rose Bowl aspirations.
Yeah. And, if we move on to our next topic, we've kind of been talking about, this Utah team, how they've been playing recently, what they bring to the table. But when you look at, what this team, what they're capable of, what's on the line, what do you think? I know what I think. This game. I've already got my my score prediction ready. So you can ask me for that, and I'll be ready. I'm not going to be sitting here fumbling over it. But what do you think you can expect from this Utah team, in particular, this Utah defense?
Well, I want to start with the offense because I know exactly what we're going to get from the offense. We're going to get something very similar to ASU. They're going to run the crap out of the ball and try to possess the clock. And then, because if you look at the receiving stats, I got them right in front of me here. Their top 2 receivers are both their tight ends. They receiving yards. Both tight ends have 192 and 188 receiving yards, which is a little strange. But no one on their team has over 200 receiving yards through, I think, 5 or 6. They've played 5 games now. So no one on their team's even averaging 40 yards of reception. Sounds very similar to ASU. So I think we can expect a very heavy run attack. And, it is at home. Try to use that crowd behind them to get 3rd and shorts, maybe run some play action. And then, watch out for a few of those trick plays like the flea flicker we saw against USC this week. So, I think it's going to be very similar to ASU. Play action or run the ball, play action, maybe, get the quarterback outside the pocket a little bit. And then defensively, I don't think this defense is very good. They gave up 17 against Weber State, 26 against BYU, 33 against San Diego State. Had a good game against Washington State, only gave up 13, but then gave up another 26 to USC. I was right. It was 26 points. They gave up another 26 to USC. So, they're not that dominant. They've had 1 game where they've held opponents to 2 games under 20, but one of them was Weber State, so I don't count that. It's really for ASU, who's had a, pretty successful offensive year. It's going to be, I think a pretty easy game plan going forward. I think ASU's defense is going to give the offense more opportunities than Utah's defense will to its own offense. And I think ASU should win this pretty handily. And, I'm going to go out and say it. I don't need to think about it. I think the final score is going to be 31-14. ASU wins by 17 points and really controls the South because I was talking to my father about this. This is the highest I've been on an ASU team I think I can remember. I like this team more than the Taylor Kelly team. I know Taylor Kelly had, DJ Foster and Jalen Strong and, some really good NFL type players. But this team is just a well-oiled machine. And I think this quarterback is special. And Taylor Kelly was never an NFL player. And when we see these flashes from Jaden, like that 65-yard run that we saw against Stanford, those are the flashes you're like, wow, this kid is legit. He just outran everyone on that defense, made a guy slip and eat crap. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and you see the passes that he made against UCLA and just the demolition of some of these defenses he's had this year that we haven't seen in the past. And kind of makes you wonder, going back to that USC game last year where we ran the ball like 13 straight times, like what if we just, handed it off to Jaden Daniels to, get some points, and we probably would have won that game. But it's really nice to see that I think the training wheels are officially off of this offense.
Oh yeah, I think the training wheels are completely off. We're like you said, we are a well-oiled machine, and we are running in fifth gear right now. I mean, this offense is firing. We're utilizing every aspect, of offensive weaponry that we have. Curtis Hodges is hauling in, 3 to 4 catches every single game for a total of around, 50 to 70 yards. Bless you. The wide receiver core is, has slowly throughout the season has been mixed in more and more, and we're seeing, either one guy stand out. Usually that's Rashad White, even in the receiving core. Or, we're seeing a couple of guys, 2 guys, duke it out for the whole night, and I think that's great. I think for the confidence level going forward.
Jeez.
And, when we get back to the question of, what do you think we can expect from this Utah defense? I think we talked about it a little bit, and I might reiterate on that. Forgive me, but this defense is not what it used to be. I think they're going to play a solid game. I think they're going to play one of their better games of the season because, both these teams are fighting, for the conference title. Utah is just, maybe a notch or 2 below ASU right now. And, they like that underdog mentality, as, any team does. This is the Pac-12. Crazy things happen. And, they're playing with their home crowd. I think the weather could play a very big factor this game. I'm not sure. I'm not even familiar at all with what the weather is going to be like on Saturday. But, if there's some snow on the ground,
I don't think it will snow.
I don't think it will either. But
yeah, Saturday it's going to be cold. Saturday is 58-degree high, 38-degree low.
Yeah, and that's not too bad.
But sunny.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. The sun's out. Those guys will be warm on the field. This is a game that ASU should win comfortably. By two touchdowns easily. Because this defense is just playing too well right now. To mess up against too young of an offense and too young of a quarterback who, maybe have had his best game of his college career, and maybe he'll be airing it out a little bit more, and our guys are going to be ready for that.
Yeah.
And, when we think of this offense, it's just, man, we've really yet to see a defense control us. And I think the best chance, that a team had to control us was the UCLA game. And, man, we drove them crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It was really just too much for them to handle. This 3-headed rushing attack is relentless. Zach Hill has really got it going on right now. And I think when you mix that with, Antonio Pierce and his defensive unit, it's too much success for this Utah team. I think it'll be close. I think, ASU by 3 or even is kind of ridiculous. I'm kind of torn at the over or under because, this really, I'm leaning under, but this really could be a game where ASU, puts up 42 points again, like they did, against like around UCLA, something like that. Man, it'll be tough to call.
Yeah, so, as we're wrapping up here with time, I want to hear your prediction. Give me an exact score. And then also, while we're still early enough in the season, I want to hear your prediction on where ASU finishes in the Pac-12. Do they win it all? Do they lose in the championship? Do they end up falling short of the championship and have a really disappointing season? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think, this weekend we play Utah. I think, it's going to be a cold night. It'll be interesting to see. I think we win it pretty handily by 2 touchdowns, like I talked about. The final score would have to be somewhere similar to the Stanford game. I'd say maybe 27-10, maybe 35-10, somewhere around there. Hopefully Elijah Badger gets a touchdown. I know Rashad White. I'd take the over of 1.5 touchdowns for my boy Rashad White. And for my extra prop lovers out there, if your degenerate book has it, go on there and hit the Curtis Hodges over over half a touchdown. What do you think, Wills? Oh,
Yeah, I gave my score prediction earlier. I said I think it's going to be 31-14 ASU wins, and I think ASU really takes control of this conference. And I think ASU is going to win the Pac-12. I think we would get stomped by either Iowa, Ohio State, or Penn State. If Sean Clifford's not playing, we have a chance against Penn State. But even Michigan State or Michigan, I don't want to see either of them either. Michigan State, we can beat. Michigan, maybe. I don't know. I think this is ASU's year. I think if we do get to a Rose Bowl or a Pac-12 championship, it's going to be some momentum that this town, this school, this city's never seen. And I think the team is really going to get behind that. So, I really do think we're going to end up making the Rose Bowl this year. And, it's going to be the first time since Jake the Snake Plummer was, the quarterback, and, ASU did beat Nebraska in that Rose Bowl. So, that's my prediction. I don't know. Maybe this is going to be a cold take in a few weeks. Hopefully not.
I don't think it's going to be a cold take. I think right now, obviously, ASU is the top dog in the Pac-12. We've been the most consistent at the highest level for the
When's the last time you said that?
For the longest, yeah, I know. For the longest amount of time. And, right now, obviously, the Beavers are in first place in the North. I don't see them sustaining that. I think they're a good team. I think, Oregon gets it back together. Or maybe, Oregon gets it back together. They've obviously have the best program in general when it comes to the Pac-12. I think it's Oregon, ASU in the Pac-12 championship. I think we come out on top. Honestly, I think this is our year, like you talked about. This team, these players, they know what's on the line, and Herm demands greatness from them like he should, especially with everything going on right now. This is our year. And USC, you guys are kicking rocks. How's it feel, man?
That is all the time we have for today. For Wills and Josh, we thank you for joining in on Devil Dash. We will see you next Monday. I know today was a Tuesday. That is my fault for having previous schedule issues, but we'll see you next Monday, whether ASU is the top dog in the Pac-12 and Pac-12 South. So we will